What's going on, Opecast? Today I have a special guest, Kwofe Coleman, the president and CEO of the Muny. Kwofe, welcome to Opecast.
Thanks for having me.
Man, president and CEO, how does that feel?
I don't like say it often. So when someone says it, you hear, it's like, oh, I guess that is my job. I mean, it feels great. I started there as an usher. I didn't necessarily think that would be the case. So like just hearing it as a reality it's humbling. It's exciting. It also reminds you of like how much work you got to do when you get back to the office, kind of thing. But no, it's something. It's something I'm proud of. The title carries some weight, but at the end of the day, it's just my job to make sure this thing exists and flows and has all the resources that a great team of people that do the work, that they have everything they need. That's all it is. But it's humbling to hear, for sure.
Well, let's talk about them usher days. So how did you get into the arts and wanting to work there?
So I grew up in St. Louis, right? I'm the youngest of three. So how I ended up at the Muny is kind of a random story. Mr. George Johnson was our parents were friends. Mr. Johnson and his wife Shirley were friends with my parents. My oldest sister, their daughter, went to grade school together. He was the postman for the Muny, right? So he delivered the mail there. It's super. This is gonna make sense, I promise.
Okay.
It's hard to get an usher job there. Back then, there were hundreds of kids applied, so you had to know somebody. His daughter was working there. My sister needed a job, and so Mr. Johnson put in a good word, got my sister a job as an usher. So then this is my middle sister. I'm 3 years younger, and when I turned 16 and needed a job, that's where my big sister worked there. That's where the car was going. That's like, so he is the baseline for all of this professionally. He got my sister in, and when you're the youngest of three, you basically your life is decided for you. Like as a teenager, it's like you're doing what the other two are doing. So that's kind of how it ended up. Like I didn't perform like in high school. I wasn't a theater kid, not because I didn't like it, but because I just wasn't talented enough in that way. But I had an appreciation. So this was my opportunity to really experience theater and learn what it is, was at the Muny, which is a completely different scale than anywhere else. But that's how it started.
I mean, in no better way than literally a run of 7 shows.
Yeah, you do. Back then we were doing... we still do 7 shows, but they were running back to back. So you do 7 shows, 7 nights, and then flip to the next one the next day. There's a little bit more breadth in the season now because we're trying to treat people more like humans. But I mean, that was my first introduction to it. I remember, so I started at 16. So I was probably in my late 20s before I actually saw a show on Broadway in New York. And I remember walking in and being like, oh, is this it?
Yeah, it's a small stage.
Right, everything, when this is your first experience, you just have this thing in your mind, like everything's this big, everything is at this pace. So, I mean, and it's, what happens on Broadway is remarkable as well. But it gives you an appreciation for what we have, for what this community has made possible, what this community has supported. Because when you think of 7 shows at that scale, at that pace, and 7 nights and flip to the next one and do that, 7 times is it's not a small feat. It just makes me, proud of the people that we got and what we do, and to do it for 106 years. That's not just a testament to what the Muny is. It's a testament to the community that makes it possible.
Did you go to the Fox growing up?
Not really. It probably was a precursor to just how competitive of a human being I am. I mean, I go to the Fox now, and I love it. But no, growing up, we went to the Muny every so often. But we were first generation. My parents were first generation. There was not a lot of disposable income for those kind of things. So and the Fox is great. But at the end of the day, the Muny had free seats. That my opportunity to see theater the first times was through the free seats, and I think that that's something that I carry with me or remember in the job, is that my exposure, other than Mr. Johnson in the job, but just being there as a kid. I saw Wizard of Oz when I was like 7 or 8.
Was that back when Ozzy was in it?
No, it wasn't that one. It wasn't that. Well, you know what's funny? I should check. The only thing I really remember that Wizard of Oz was I was staring at the fans the whole time, because those were they had the big blades, and I just didn't understand what was going. It just looked frightening to me. But for all I know, Ozzie Smith was probably on stage in that one. I'll have to look back and see which year he did. That's good trivia. But it gave me an opportunity. That was my first access, and I know that we are that. For a lot of people, and that matters. I think that's one thing that matters the most to me about the job now.
Well, it's like for me, the first time I went to the Muny, it was with my family. I think my dad got free tickets from someone at work, and so we went as a family. And then I remember wanting to go, but I guess like we didn't know it was free at that time, or it's still, there are still free seats, 1,100.
1,500 free 1,500 free seats, 400 more people that you didn't know could come.
400 more people that are watching and listening to this that can go. But we didn't know too much at that time. We were talking early 2000s. Yeah. And my wife and I, when we got married, like one of the things we said, like, we have to get season tickets. And so slowly but surely we've been working our way up, and here I am talking to you today. So it's pretty cool.
Man, this is great. It's interesting. You said you have season tickets. I think when people think of the Muny demographic of season ticket holders, I mean, you and your wife are much younger than I think people think that this is. But I think that's one of the things that's cool about the place to me is that we're trying to connect a lot of St. Louis, a lot of the different parts of St. Louis, and all the different demographic ways that may set us apart. So, I'm really excited when I see people my age or younger that have made that this has become attractive enough to them that this is something that they want to do to make this a part of their tradition. That's, that makes me feel great about the choices that we're making, because we sit in the office, we're trying to decide a bunch of things. What are the shows? How do we market this? What do you do with the facility? What else are you doing here? How do you make sure that this feels welcoming, open, exciting to all of St. Louis, especially these next generations of it. So, 30-something season ticket holders are that's a great thing. That's a great thing to hear.
Well, I think too, it's like kind of like you said, people when they think about it, they were going with their parents growing up, or maybe grandparents, things like that. And then it's like, for us, I mean, it's a guaranteed date night. Like, we know no matter what this summer, we can tell you the exact the exact nights we have.
You know what you're doing on that night of the week, yeah.
And now we know, like, okay, if it's hot, we may bring cold snack or something. But
maybe some ice cream.
Yeah, some ice cream. Yeah, we'll get into some ice cream.
Yeah, I know you can bring some. We'll get to it. Okay.
Well, that dictates whether I have literally 2 ice cream.
Is there 1 or 2 ice cream night? That's
seriously.
Oh,
I'm not even joking.
We have water. I mean, you can get some. Okay,
it's St. Louis. I can get any water.
Now I know I'm going to be coming up there. I'm going to check on you. I'm like, how many ice creams does this man have? Do we have to cut him off?
Yeah. Well, if it's over 85, we're probably having 2 or 3.
2 or 3. Okay.
The 3 is like when it was 106 one time. Or was it 106? 103 or something.
Do you ever have the little lemon cup, the lemon chills?
I have. Man, I've been so hooked on the cone.
It's the best snack. But you got to get the lemon chill. Well, like start in the first act, because it's a 2-act snack.
Oh, there's been times where I'm like, okay, it's hot, I need to go over, and so literally I will stand on the side, eat my ice cream cone during the dance number.
I'm gonna be looking for you on Sundays. We're gonna have some snacks.
Yeah, no, I mean literally during Be Our Guest last year, my wife's like, you missed the whole thing. I was like, it's high, like I'm just on the side.
Yeah, but I had this ice cream though.
I'm not even joking. but like, yeah, like it's a date night, but the year is 1998. The very first show is Fiddler on the Roof. The number 1 song in the country is Brandy and Monica, The Boy Is Mine.
Wow.
Do you remember what it was like that first day working there?
That's crazy. I've never really even thought about the first day. I think of the first season. Fiddler it was Fiddler?
According to the website.
No, I believe the website. Shoot, I remember that first year more. Like I said, I remember that first day. You know what I do? I remember my usher orientation. So before we even started, just I'd been in there as a patron before, but coming in being on the backside, backstage, and just seeing who was I going to work with, friends I had in high school, people I'd never met before. I remember that feeling of what's the best word. Feeling of belonging, you know what I mean? This is a bunch of people that some some you don't, but this is a group where we're going to do something together. I think what it takes to execute a summer there, all the people that were in management at that time, and it's our jobs now, it takes a sense of together that you have to. So it's like it's like camp counselors almost. You got to get everybody riled up. You got to do something. We're not really doing cheers, but you know what I mean? You had to get people together. So I remember the excitement of that being like, oh, this is like, I'm going to be a part of something. And then you work at that point, you're a kid, but you're working at a place that no one ever has anything, I shouldn't say ever, rarely have anything negative to say. You say, I work at the Muny, like, oh, it's great. Everyone relates a memory, or they're like, oh, it's great. I worked there when I was a kid. You know, so I remember those days just feeling like this is like it feels like a cool club to be a part of.
Were you ever pushing people up?
Yeah, that was my job. I pushed wheelchairs. Yeah.
If I did that in high school, I'd have a 40-inch vertical.
Here's the best basketball days of my life. The best days of my now I look at those kids, those young people pushing those wheelchairs. I'm like, I could do one of those, and then I need one of those chairs. But even that was like a rite of passage, sense of pride kind of thing. And there were these like little groups. There was the ticket takers. There was the wheelchair pushers. We all felt like we were doing something. Maybe the best way to say it is like you see people come to the Muny and they're so happy. They're like experiencing joy. They are just
they're
sharing. They're smiling, and like when you get to put on a uniform and be part of what that is for them. When you're like 16, 17, 18, it's a great feeling. I think I remember that the most. But that little run back you gave me of like all the things happening in '98 also just makes me realize how long ago 1998 was. Yeah, but yeah, those are great years. I love those. The years as an usher pushing wheelchairs was a blast.
Now let's talk about your journey, like throughout your career. Now, was it 2011 you started the digital? Really the digital marketing side of the Muny, which is huge. Even recently, I was checking out the YouTube page, and even like the content you guys are putting out on socials is amazing. And shout out to y'all over there.
Oh, what they're doing now is like light years ahead of what we were just trying to figure out how to be present on the internet. Full stop.
How was that? 2011. I mean,
2011 is when we really started a lot of the YouTube and public facing, but I'd say 2009, 10. So when I started full time in 08, 09, something like that. Whatever it was, I was super young, relative to the rest of the staff. And so we were just starting our social, like we needed social media for companies was a new thing. And I was 20 something, everybody else was like my parents' age or whatnot. So I was really working in accounting in 09 when I was doing that. But it was a great experience to be trusted, right, to represent the company in a digital way. It kind of fell to me by default because I understood the internet in a way. But that made me really conscious of paying attention to what you want the culture of the institution to be. When you get to do that and couple it with working what we call front of house, at that point, I was maybe a head usher or house manager, one of those two. That puts you in direct contact with the customers all day, 24/7. So you get to understand how they communicate with the place. So when you think back to those days, social media was really the one opportunity to have a two-way conversation with a patron. Before, everything was just, we were telling you, we're giving you information, and then maybe it lands or it doesn't. Social allowed us to have an inbox and have real conversations. And that really, I think, for my own growth as in understanding all the ins and outs of the company required me to know it, to represent those places. And that I loved being able to be in some small way a voice for the company. It was also like just challenging because I was also doing accounting at the same time. Yeah. So it was two brains, but that was a great run. I think a good time for everyone in the company for us to take a step forward to really being a company that was existing on the internet and using those resources.
Well, and it's like, the business side with accounting, but then like when you're diving in to something new at that time, digital marketing and social media, it's like you had to learn what you can and you can't say, what you can do and you can't, learning whether it's like from the board or maybe donors, unions, things like that. Like you had to, okay, how do I say, you're getting all of this information and you have to say it to a way that can still resonate with the audience.
Yeah, I would say this, the hallmark, or I guess you want to say, of the company then, I hope still now, was always that it's about the people that come there. It's about this community. It's about the audience. So, well, yeah, you had to figure out what you can or can't say, but there was always a guiding force or guiding light in it that's like, what's the best way, the best thing for the people that are coming here? How do you make sure that if you're communicating a policy or a procedure, we had to move away from language of like what you can't do to what you can do, So, as long as we were keeping the people first, and my predecessor, Denny, was big about that, about, this is about the people in the community that come here. And so if you kept that top of mind, it actually made it relatively easy, because you're like, well, if I were them, how would I want to be treated? If you looked at it that, which I guess is also like the oldest adage in the world, right? It's the same thing, but if you kept that top of mind, it made it relatively easy. The challenges that the team that communicates today have is those challenges are so much more.
So many more platforms.
So many more platforms, and thankfully we're so much more aware of how the damage that things that we thought were insignificant words or statements can do to a human being. So I think that what they have to be conscious of, or what they have to be conscious of, and they navigated so successfully, is why they're just so much smarter than we were. Because they're taking in that information and processing it in a different way. So I'm thankful for the period of time that I got to do this in versus now. I look at how they create content and the way that they tell the story of the Muny, which is different how we told it. It's amazing. That kind of thing is exciting.
It's a skill, because you have to be able to like deliver that message to the masses.
Yeah, but in a way that the masses care today, and the masses care today different than they cared before. And it's neat. I'm speaking to an expert in it. It's amazing. What I appreciate most about this job, just not being at the Muny, but like the people it's put me around these rooms, is watching creative people be comfortable in what they're doing. And I think the world being much better at valuing that creativity. That you don't have to sit behind a desk. Some of us are sit in a spreadsheet type people. That's how our brains work. And for too long, that was valued above the partnerships of like creativity. And so I get to be around a lot of people that are far more creative than me, and that is energizing.
Is this your first podcast?
I think so. I don't know. Probably.
I had to ask that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Many more to come.
Yeah.
Now,
I listen to podcasts like a addict, but
now this one's you.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be on the list. I'm trying to like reduce it, because like I'll go into bed, I'm like, well, podcast I'm gonna listen to while I sleep. I gotta like maybe talk to humans instead of listen to podcasts.
Oh man. Well, actually, that would help me out with my streaming numbers if you listen to while you fall asleep.
Oh yeah, I'll just keep it on.
Playing.
I'll keep it. I won't put the little sleep timer on. Like not when the whole stream ends. Got it. I got you. We'll stream you overnight. No problem.
So if you guys are listening to this podcast, just play it 24/7.
Play it overnight. I don't know where the camera is.
Yeah, right there.
Play it overnight.
Let's talk about your journey from 2011 to hearing that you're going to be president and CEO, taking over for Denny. There was COVID. Let's talk about that time.
That time went really fast. I think that somewhere, I don't know, now I wouldn't say 2011, somewhere soon after that, I felt like, so let me back up and say, when I went to college, my plan was to go to law school. When I came back and started working full time, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. This is going to be like my gap year, and I'm going to come back and do this. So that gap year was supposed to be 2009. So by like 2011, I'm like, that was just like an extended gap year. I'm still in my brain, I'm still going to go to law school. So somewhere after that, I think it just became, I wanted to go to law school so I could try to help people that didn't have a fair shake, right? That was the whole point of it. I didn't want to be like, no, not corporate lawyers are important. We have them. I appreciate you, all that. But I just wanted to try to even a playing field. But I realized that there was a chance to do that with something like the Muny too. So somewhere there I started like, okay, well, maybe I can stick with this, and there's a chance. What I will always be grateful for is the leadership at that point, the board, donors, people in the community, all poured support or backing or faith, belief, whatever you want to call it, into, I won't say just me, into like a generation of people to allow us to succeed and sometimes fail, but believing that among us we would try to be the next stewards of these things these great foundations that they've laid. So the Muny gave me a lot of chances. I mean, I worked in finance, I worked front of house, I worked supported fundraising, I did digital communication, I did marketing. So you get to work payroll, you get to work through this organization in every area, so that when you get to a moment where there's a time of transition, it feels natural. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be here without those opportunities to grow. I mean, I know the business of running a theater pretty well. I know the Muny like it's home, so that time went quickly because it was like different jobs. I was in marketing for a couple of, our digital team became the marketing team. The company was growing. We started a capital campaign. So now we're fundraising. We're also doing renovations. So we're doing the construction side of it. So it's all these pieces coming together. So
what year did that start?
The capital campaign?
Yep.
We started it privately in early 2017. Mm-hmm. The public phase started in 2018, and then we wrapped it up in 2020. So it was relatively quick for a campaign, but that really speaks to the generosity of this community. There is the love for St. Louis and things that represent St. Louis that people have here. I'd say is second to none. Only like maybe like Texans. Texas people are wild about Texas.
Everything,
but like
Texas.
Here, and the people and they're willing to make investments to make sure that the things that they love and that they believe represent the city well are there. So we were able to do that campaign relatively quickly because of that.
It's impressive.
It was. I learned. You don't want to talk about learning. Like that is how I learned the best ways to represent and present a place, but also learn what like love for a city means. You go in there and people start telling you about like their first memories or first moments at the Muny and what that made for their life. And then at the end of the day, like, so that's why I'm going to write you this $5 million check or this 20, like first, how's the box on your check even that big to put all those zeros in it? Number one, but like
I'll answer it one day.
Yeah. One day we'll know. But, that was, I probably used the word humbling too much, but that was it's like this is, I work for this thing that makes people feel like this, we got to make sure that we take care of it.
Well, it's like you said, when people show up to the Muny, it's like a lot of smiling faces and people are creating memories. And one thing that, like for me to like help kind of get my generation and the younger generation in there, I'm like, it is what you make it. Like you can go there, you can visit a restaurant ahead of time. You can pack your own picnic. It's like a date night, catch up with friends, at least try to find that one show to get you in there. Mm-hmm. And then, the way you guys have the sets and lighting, Mary Poppins flying over people, like you guys have you guys are doing it big.
We get to be over the top with flying, but I think the gift or the blessing of being here for a long time, being well resourced, being a company that historically has been run responsibly, is that we have the resources to do what no one else can do. And when it's the biggest one in the world, it's got all that space. Yeah, you can fly a person, and the same night you shoot some fireworks, and so we can make sure that when people in this community come to see a show here, they're never going to have that experience anywhere else. And I think especially in this community, it also matters a lot that it's made by them. It's not a tour. It's not the one that came off a truck and a bus. People that live in their neighborhood, their friends, their cousins, their mothers, fathers, sisters, built this show. Some of them are in their show. Their grandkids or their kids in it. So it feels like theirs. They own this.
Of the people, for the people,
by the people, for the people. And we got to put that one on the in marketing. Of the people, wait, what'd you say?
Of the people, for the people.
Yeah.
By the people. By the people. Like I said, your YouTube content.
Yeah.
They got to show that stuff in school. That's like one of I was talking to a buddy yesterday. I was like, why aren't they showing, or I don't know if maybe some schools are, but like showing the history of St. Louis, the good and the bad and like everything it means to have a place like the Muny.
I mean, I think some places are starting to, but if you look at, and we could go all the way down the tangent, the education system is like, it's a tough and a risky place to make really, really big changes. I serve on a couple of school boards. One of them is a charter school, and so you see some of these schools that are like, okay, we're going to take a step out of the complete norms and try to figure out a way to connect to these kids today and make it relatable. But to your point, when you're in a city, also tie it into where they are. I guess that's what the Atlas is the school board that I'm on. Like, they do a really good job of tying the education and using real life things that these kids encounter in this community every day is built into the curriculum. And I think that there's something we just learn better when we can connect to the thing. So I hope that
we're in the show me state, man.
Yeah, I hope the more of the education system gets that, like, nationally. Like,
yeah.
Don't make it so standard for everywhere. Just build it in so like these kids can relate to it a little bit more.
Well, it's like I think that's part of the responsibility with what I do and what I encourage like St. Louis creators to do is, some people probably never care to look at me, hear me, see me, whatever. But it's like there may be someone else that does something similar that has their own personality. And if that's the person that gets them out to explore the Muny, Forest Park, whatever, like, great. Like, I'm very big on like investing in creators that have these, these platforms. We can put out a video tomorrow and it gets 100,000 views. Traditionally, that's 100,000 people buying a newspaper, and you're hoping they see it, or that's $50,000 you're paying for a commercial. Like, we can just do that.
Well, and also you can track who they are. You shouldn't undersell what you're doing. Like, there's a bunch of young people who maybe not enough people in their lives tell them that the path that you're on is the one that is right for them. But they see you doing it successfully. They see you doing it with poise and confidence, and like they need to see that. I think we all have that responsibility, and whatever we get to a certain level in is to be an example to like, oh, you too can do this.
I try, guys. Just really like just showing them like I believe everything is possible in this day and age.
Yeah. With
technology, and I mean, look at this. We're here.
If anybody else is doing it and they get up and they get up and start their day the same way I do, then we can all do it. Yeah, I fully support that.
Awesome. Now I got this in the mail yesterday.
Uh-oh.
We're coming into welcome to our 2024 summer season. So we have Les Mis, Dreamgirls, The Little Mermaid, Fiddler on the Roof. Call back to 1998, right?
I had no idea. It's true nostalgia. All right.
Waitress, In the Heights, and Anything Goes. Right. And so what work goes into planning a season like that?
Gosh, a lot. I mean, the main thing is you're going to say which 7 shows together as a set of 7 will be a great experience or a great summer for the people that come here. At the end of the day, we're looking at those season ticket holders like you and your wife to say, okay, what if they're going to have 7 date nights? What is that? What's the arc, the path of those 7 nights? So we're looking at what works well together. We survey the audience, so that helps. But then there's like the business of it. Which shows have the rights available? Certain shows it costs more to produce Little Mermaid than it will something a smaller show. So we're looking at budget implications. How do you connect that? But the main thing is saying, okay, if someone makes the investment and decides to take 7 of their nights this summer and spend them with us, are we taking them on a journey? Are we running them through some emotions, some joy, some drama, something for the family, maybe something for the adults? Are we putting together a package that makes sense for them?
I've seen that formula.
Yeah,
I've noticed it.
And sometimes you nail it, sometimes you don't. I think the hardest part is separating ourselves from it, so that it's not like, what are the 7 shows I want to see? They're not 11,000 me's every night. You know what I mean? So you're trying to figure that out. But because of the history and whatnot we're fortunate that we get the we have a good relationship with the licensing houses, so we don't have as tough of a time once we figure out that it's the right show. It's just about kind of negotiating royalties and that kind of thing. But
yeah, I was looking into the history of the Muny recently, and it was interesting. Like people like John Travolta, Betty White, was it the St. Louis Hawks?
They
were in the show.
Morgan Freeman's been in the show. I mean,
Corbin Bleu. Recently?
Corbin. Man,
he's been in like 2.
He's 2 or 3. I will tell you something. He is obviously a very talented performer, but also very few people work as hard as that dude. I mean, he'll be there early. You see him. Everyone's eating lunch. He's working. He's in the script. So you see those people that are talented and like hard workers, and you see why.
I see why. Like
you see why like he doesn't miss on stage because he's doing the job. So yeah, there's been there's been a legacy of some big names on that stage.
I remember when the rain went off and singing in the rain. I was like, oh snap!
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, it rained during like real rain during tech rehearsal. Like, if we could only just time it.
Oh, we can save
a
few bucks,
save a bunch of money if we could just time it.
Well, let's run it back, guys. We only have it's green on the radar. It's gonna get red here in a minute. We gotta get you guys off stage. What is that process like in between shows? So you, like, let's say you have Les Mis coming up, and then you have the next show after that.
Yeah.
The other show's rehearsing.
They've started rehearsing, so there's 11 days of rehearsal. So once that other shows, they've started rehearsing during that other run. So that the campus, one of the best parts of being at the Muny is like daytime. Middle of the summer, there'll be 2 shows that are in rehearsal. If you go to the east side of campus, you may hear Waitress. If you go west, you'll hear, Fiddler or whatever is next. So that's pretty cool. But the show closes. And then that next day, that crew is changing over the stage. They've already built that set. That set's coming on. They're repainting the stage. And the show that's been rehearsing on the side is getting ready to start migrating its life toward the stage. And then we built in now that there is, after the show closes, there's what we call dark night. So we'll have rehearsal and build during the day. But that night at 5 p.m., we close the campus. Everybody needs a chance to go home, go to your hotel, separate from this, which is different than what we were doing before. You just want to continue to be conscious of the evolution of human beings and what they need. So the dark night is great. Everybody goes home, do some laundry, whatever hasn't happened
breathe.
in the other. Yeah, breathe, sleep, and get some ice cream, whatever it is, and then come back. And then we have 2 nights of tech rehearsal, and then we open, and then that cycle just keeps going.
It's fun for me because like every week it's a new show, I don't see the behind the scenes. One thing we were talking about off camera was about the ice cream, and like I was telling you how the ladies behind me, they crack me up because like, I have a technique now. Like I have to get like a little cup or something below, get like 3 napkins.
Well, you getting the cone?
I'm getting the cup. I love that.
Yeah, so you need the cup for sometimes the upside down hold. Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, I've ruined some of my white shirts. I can't wear even if I put some shout on it, but it's
not the same. Yes, it'll never bounce back.
Yeah, even before I got into this content creator life, I was influencing the ladies behind me, and I hear them talk. Like my wife and I will hear them talk about like, oh, he hasn't gotten the cone yet. And my wife and I just like look at each other and we just laugh. It's one of those things we look forward to. And sometimes like if we know we have a long day the next day and we have to, leave a little early, they'll be like, so why'd you leave early? I'm like, it's just one of those things. Like
but you made a little community there. I think that's one of the things I love too. I talked before about like when my first times as an usher and feel like this is my tribe. These are my people now. Like when I learned that, but the same way you'll see people that have had their seats in the same place for maybe a generation, and that's their Friday night family or their Sunday night family, and so they don't ever see these people that sit behind them or across the aisle or whatnot the whole rest of the year. But for 7 weeks in the summer, they're connected, and I think that being a place that can you can call it force or create, whichever word you want to use, those connections. There's a chance you never run into those 2 ladies behind you anywhere in life. They may be from the other side of Missouri. You may have zero interest. But for those couple hours, you're not talking about how you voted. You're not talking about where you pray, if you pray. You're not talking about, what you're doing is coming here and you're having a set of experience. You're watching something happen together. You're going to roll through those emotions at the same time. You're going to talk about what you eat or not eat. And they've come to know you as a person in a way that there may or may not have been an opportunity to form that connection in the not outside of those gates.
Yeah.
And I think that's
the beauty of art.
That's the beauty of art. That's the beauty of any of these shared experiences. So I love that's why I love standing out there every night. You just get to watch all these relationships and friendships and things happen.
My wife and I used to compliment you and Denny, and we're like, man, those are fresh blazers. And I'm like sweating over here. And I'm like, man, they're looking fresh. What blazer are they wearing this week?
Only fresh from a distance. I'm going to tell you, because if you're sweating in a shirt, I'm sweating in a blazer. And the dry cleaner over on Brentwood, they love me. They love me in the summer.
Job security.
I'm good for business in the summer. I'm like, here's 30 blazers.
Yeah. It's like if you go to a Beyonce concert, she has the fan on her. Like, you're like, why is her hair flying like that? One day you're just gonna have that little spot where
that's why we stand in that. I stand in that corner. It's right below the other fan.
Man,
yeah, I mean, you're never gonna find me in the middle. Like it's way too hot. It's never hot. It's
It's
never
really
hot
not.
at the Muny.
With the fans and the, like, seriously,
No,
even if it's humid.
Also, like what it feels like at 5 p.m. in the sun in St. Louis is not what it feels like at 8:15 when the sun is down. We try to remind people of that.
Yeah.
Like, and we know it's St. Louis. It can be cooking outside at noon, but like at 8:15, the sun's down. You got a little man-made breeze. Maybe you got like a little bead of sweat in the air over that. I'm not just saying it because this is like what we do. This is how I eat. Like, it's actually not that hot. Yeah. Top of the show, maybe first show of the season where the sun is still like peak, you're gonna feel it. But
by the end of the season,
end of the season
is so beautiful.
End of the season, we're starting the show in the dark.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's not bad.
If it's not cloudy, you can actually see the Big Dipper.
Oh, can't yeah.
You know, I sit pretty high up. You know, so it's like I see it. It's like, oh, it's cloudy.
I'm gonna come up there, so you gotta point it out to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'll never forget. It was like an Independence Day like moment. Those was it Starlink satellites were going over the audience, and everyone was just like. And
there's so many things that happen that we're wildly unaware of. Wait, this was this year?
Yeah. For a second, I thought I was gone.
Did you know about this? Yeah.
I was in the middle of a show. Yeah. Halfway through the season, I can't remember.
When we go back, we got to ask we're maybe the only two.
Maybe I don't.
Wait. So there were satellites going.
Yeah. Have you ever seen those? The Starlink. They're like 8 or maybe like 10. I've seen it around my house now. It's the Elon Musk satellite.
Oh yeah. Wait,
that went over the Muny. Literally everyone was like,
does everybody else know about this? I'm looking at you guys in TV land.
We're literally and went over and
what?
It just like, oh my gosh, it's like Independence Day, 1996 Will Smith movie. You know, I was like,
that's wild. I mean, I guess sometimes you hear the audience get a little restless and you don't know why. Maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna next time shoot me a text like, hey man, look up.
I'm typically want to pull out my phone, but I was in disbelief. I was like, oh my god, like they're.
Well, also those ushers are on the job. You pull out your phone, they'll be sitting next to you in a second.
True. Now let's talk about the future. You know, whether it's for you or the Muny.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Muny, I think we do musical theater really well. And we're proud to say that, and that's our bread and butter. I think on top of that, I want to get to a place where, you know, so back in the 80s, 90s, there were a lot of concerts or other things that happened at the Muny outside of our season, and I want to get back to using the space. It's not just about for business. You know, we keep talking in this conversation about this being a gathering place for people. It's a place for connections. And so if we can use other mediums, not only theater, for people to gather in the heart of Forest Park to share something together, I think that feeds the soul of a community. Also, you know, if you have those things and being true to our mission and say, like, also great musical theater happens here. So if you like XYZ concert in the fall, you should come and see what happens here in the summer, which is our bread and butter. So I want to continue growing how this place is a meeting place for the community. I'm really proud of some of the work that we're doing, kind of stepping off campus. I think we've done a great job for a century plus to welcome people to the Muny. But what's our greater influence in the community, our greater participation?
You have like Muny Kids.
Muny Kids teams, the education initiatives are a great part of that. We've started kind of a little internal program where our staff volunteers a couple times a month in different places. So I just want us to continue being real participants in the community. We exist because St. Louis invests time, talent, and treasure, right, in us. So like we owe something back. You know, so I think that part is that's exciting for me. You know, I'm proud of where I've got. I don't know what's next. You know what I mean? I don't know that there is a different thing. I love what I'm doing. I love the place, and I think there's so much opportunity still of what else we can do or what more we can do. Here. So I'm just excited to have be on the younger side of the age spectrum for the job and have a runway ahead of what we can do. And you know, I get to sit here and represent this place, but the heartbeat and the strength of this thing is the team that we've got. We've got an amazing staff of people that do a great job but love it. And so like we talked about marketing and the content creation. We talked about education and being off campus. We talk about production. Those shows are outstanding. There's just a bunch of people doing a really great job to represent the place. So what they come up with next, as long as I just provide the space and opportunity to get out of their way, is exciting too.
I mean, it's like I see what you're saying. It's so hard to say what the future holds when literally you guys have changed the game, like when it comes to shows.
Well, I hope so. I think the beauty of it is we can say, it's hard to say what's next because we are gratefully in a position that like anything's possible.
Everything's possible.
Everything is possible there right now. So we're going to see. But most of it, we also want to hear from saying like, what does St. Louis want from the Muny? You know, I think that's an important question to ask too.
Variety of ice cream.
We got you. Ice cream is going to be, you'll be picking ice cream all night.
For Foodie Friday, what are 3 or 4 of your favorite restaurants?
All right, so let's see. From neighbor, I like Evangeline's right here. I live around the corner, so that's here. This place called Brasilia. It's on South Grand. I love it. George is the head chef there. You know, if you end up at Brasilia at the end of when they're closing, and George comes out and says, "Let's have a drink together," call an Uber. You know what I mean? It's just gonna be that kind of night. The St. Louis Club in Clayton has a great chef. And all 3 of these places, I'd probably eat just about anything that I'm not allergic to. With those, what else do I like? I mean, I'm also from North St. Louis, so I'll eat the Chinese food pretty much anywhere. Anywhere north of Del Mar, I've probably been to all of those.
Nice.
So I'm a sucker for some good fried rice. I know this is blasphemous. Not a huge St. Paul fan. Sorry, St. Louis.
No, I'm with you.
But there's too many of those to name. You know, I'm allergic to seafood, so that reduces it significantly. But yeah, I like to try different neighborhood restaurants too, just to see. I mean, St. Louis has some of these pockets that have an identity, a food identity. So,
when I tell people too, it's like if you like one thing, let's say you only like, I don't know, the most basic thing, chicken tenders. Well, like go to different places, different pockets around town. Try new places. Now, let's say dinner guests, 3 people that will join you for a meal. They could be dead, alive, could be family, friends, celebrities, mentors. 3 people. Who would they be?
I never got to meet my grandfather, either of them, so they would be there. I'm going to count them as one.
As one, yeah.
Okay. I'd love to have dinner. So those 2, Barack Obama and LeBron James. Those would be my 3. Those would be my dinner guests.
The GOAT.
Yeah.
What are you guys talking about?
Oh, I'm going to talk a little bit basketball. I'm with my grandparents. I just want to probably just learn more about so my family's from Ghana, what it was like to grow up at that point. You always want to know what your parents were like, growing up. So probably that.
Yeah.
I think I would listen to whatever Barack wants to talk about. I think that to see, they had to cross a lot of barriers to get to where he was, but also leading a country as a first Black president there's a lot to glean, there's a lot to learn there. So I think whatever he wants to talk about, and I think that would dovetail right into the basketball conversation. So yeah, I think that would be it.
Now, words of wisdom. Maybe it's someone that aspires to do what you're doing, or maybe it's someone who could be going through a tough time. What would you like to leave the guests with? If
it was, first aspire to be more than what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Everybody should aspire to whatever that ceiling is. What I would say about that is also find balance. Make sure that your job is not your life, that your life is not your job. You know what I mean? I think that you can love it. I think you have to love it, or else there's no point in getting up every day to go do a thing that doesn't bring some kind of joy or peace or stability to you. But it can't be everything that you are either. So if it's specifically in running an arts institution or a theater, remember that there's a piece of what we're doing that's entertainment. There's a large piece of it that's community. But it's not everything that you are. You have to separate yourself a little bit from it. But make sure you love it. Find something that you love, not something that you think will pay you the most, or the thing that your parents or your community wants you to do. Does it make you excited to wake up and go in every day?
That's amazing.
If you're going through a tough time, don't do it by yourself. You know what I mean? I think that we have to rely on the people around us, especially at our darkest moment. I think that when we're going through tough times, it's usually something that we're don't want to discuss, ashamed of, embarrassed, whatever it is. Anyone that really loves and cares, doesn't matter what it is. So don't go through your darkest times by yourself.
That's amazing. I'm going to go back to that other one. It sounds like once the new courts are done in Forest Park.
Oh, we're getting shots up.
We're getting
shots up anytime.
We'll be like, what does LeBron call himself? The Wash King? We'll just be the Wash guys.
With knee braces.
Yeah.
If those are concrete courts, I'm going to need like a lot of Dr. Scholl's. Like I still try to play twice a week, like indoor courts.
It's still completely different.
But like, 20s, your 20s is a lot of layups and 30s is, maybe some mid-range. Yeah, you hit your 40s, I'm a perimeter shooter.
Nah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to be out here where it's safe.
You're sore from shooting, man, at that point.
I'm going to be out here where it's safe. But, a turned ankle feels different when you're 41.
Well, Kwofe, I appreciate your time. I really do.
Been great.
I admire what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's really cool.
I admire what you're doing, and I mean it. We get to come on and be guests, but I think someone should interview you, People should hear more about what you're doing. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks.